What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be talking about Alien Covenant. So let's get into that. Hi, my name is Leo. If you guys like talking about movies, TV shows, video game related, or just anything nerdy, you have come to the right place. And like I said, today we're talking about Alien Covenant. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Now we have come to the final movie in the Alien franchise before Alien Romulus comes out this week. As of today, it comes out today actually. I'm going to head out to watch it right after I film this review. But before I do that, of course, I want to give you my thoughts about Alien Covenant. Also, let me know what you guys think about this movie. Again, share your excitement for Alien Romulus. What do you guys think about the entire Alien franchise as a whole? Love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. But before I give you my thoughts, also make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Join the Nerd Talk family. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my pros. Now, starting off with the pros, I do enjoy this being a little bit of a sequel to Prometheus, kind of giving us a little bit more insight and a little bit more background story into the creation of the Xenomorph and following up David and Captain Amy, I believe her name was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Captain Amy as they head to the planet where these kind of Titans originated from, and their kind of destruction of this planet, and David's kind of going into this very psychotic creation mode where he wants to make this perfect specimen and he wants to kind of play God in a way. And he despises all living life forms. He wants to be like that perfect specimen, like the Xenomorph in a way. And it just kind of goes into a little bit more intrigue and a little bit more background of how the Xenomorph kind of came to be, or in a sense how the Xenomorph became to be a perfect specimen in David's eyes, because the Xenomorph did exist before this. David just kind of made some heavy modifications and started making hybrids and things like that. And how we're following this new crew in the ship of the Covenant, heading to this planet because they're a colonizing group, but they got a signal from this planet. So because of company orders, whenever you hear a signal or some sort of life form, you have to go investigate. On top of that, this planet was an inhabitable planet as well, so they're going to want to go see if they can go ahead and inhabit that planet before having to fly another 7 years into space to try to find the original planet they were going to. And of course, while they land there, things start to go awry, things start going a little crazy, and we start getting a little bit more of that horror element within the Alien franchise, where people start getting infected and the Xenomorphs start becoming to be born again. And this time we don't get a chest burster, but we get a spine burster with these kind of little hybrid, more like white instead of the black Xenomorph. They look a little bit more kind of animalistic, the way they kind of walk around and stuff like that. But we do get a little bit of that horror element in this movie as well that I really enjoy. And this movie kind of kicks off pretty quick as well. That starting portion when they find this planet doesn't take too long, and by the time they land on this planet, it gets right into it. People start getting infected, people start dying, the Xenomorphs start growing inside them very, very quickly, and then you get those grotesque moments like in like the medical bay or out in the fields and stuff, and you get that little horror element again, and the Xenomorphs start popping out and stuff. So this movie definitely moves pretty quickly. It's a very quick paced movie that I really enjoy. And although we get a little bit of an expedition dump, which we'll get a little more to my cons, I do enjoy that we learned a little bit more about what's going on on this planet, what happened, what did David do, what he's been doing these past 10 years on modifying the Xenomorph and everything like that. So we do get a little bit more background, a little bit more information, some questions answered that are interesting and intriguing, but not too much where it kind of gives everything away. But I do enjoy that we went a little bit deeper, following up Prometheus, where there was a lot of things being explored. This explored a little bit more stuff, that it's a decent follow-up from the Prometheus movie. I think the effects also look pretty good here in this movie. Again, you can definitely tell there's some digital stuff here going on, but the Xenomorph looks really nice. I'm assuming that you would still call them Xenomorphs. I just don't know what type they are, but those ones you would get towards the beginning, they're a little more animalistic and they're more pale in color instead of like the traditional black Xenomorph. Those look really interesting as well. So I do like all the special effects when it comes to all the different Xenomorphs, as well as all the shot selection and choices and score and stuff. This, again, like Prometheus, this movie is very dazzling and pleasing to look at. It looks like a lot of things were shot on location from what at least I can gather. So again, just directed very beautifully, shot very beautifully. The visuals are done very, very well, where it's entertaining in just that matter alone, where it's very pleasing to watch. You know, it doesn't lose your concentration as you're watching it. It keeps you engaged throughout the entire time. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my cons. And I do think one of my biggest cons here is kind of the explanation of the xenomorph, where it kind of came from. It's interesting, again, where, you know, you have this robot, David, played by Michael Fassbender, who's been modifying the xenomorph to try to make it a perfect specimen and things like that. But I do think that kind of loses a little bit of its flavor when it comes to the previous Alien movies of where these xenomorphs actually came from. I wish this was just a alien that was out there on the planet that was a perfect specimen from the beginning. It did not need any sort of modifications or anything like that. And I guess it's kind of an interesting idea, you know, something I didn't really mention, how, you know, you have this whole Prometheus kind of 1-2 punch of creation, where you have these beings that created the humans, and the humans created the robots, and now you have David as a robot that wants to create the xenomorph and create a better version of the xenomorph. So that's an interesting idea that we're following, but I don't think it works entirely, and it kind of belittles the xenomorph when you look at the other Alien movies, and it makes them to be a little bit less, you know, a little bit less intimidating, because you're told that this xenomorph is like this because a robot modified it to be this deadly, this perfect, even though beforehand the xenomorphs were already as deadly. And so it kind of also loses a little bit of that solid through line, where we've had xenomorphs before. Like, we look at stuff like the Alien versus Predator movies, where those movies happen before Prometheus ever happens in terms of the chronological timeline, and there's xenomorphs there that are just as deadly as the current xenomorphs now. So it does lose a little bit of, you know, that solid through line, where it does feel like it's a little bit all over the place on where the xenomorphs kind of really came from. So even though this movie does kind of give you a little bit more background of the xenomorph, and a little more background of these kind of Titan planet, it still doesn't answer questions, and if anything, it makes everything a little bit more confusing towards the end of it. So you end up kind of having more questions than answered. I also don't think that really any character here was really that interesting. Maybe besides Michael Fassbender playing David and Walter, that's probably the most interesting characters between them two. He played the two most interesting characters. But everybody else, I think, was kind of forgettable. You know, we had a solid cast in terms of who was playing them, but for the most part, there wasn't really anybody that you tend to really cared about. And then we get Daniels, you know, Captain Daniels, by the end of it, that is meant to be sort of like a Ripley in a way, and ends up not being that memorable of a final girl, and she ends up not really being as much of a badass as Ripley is in the previous movie. So again, I feel like they're trying to rehash a little bit of some of the things that we got from the previous Alien movies. And this kind of feels like, you know, everybody that didn't enjoy Prometheus, they try to like scrap it and redo, you know, Alien Covenant, and try to re-explain different things. So again, it does make everything a little bit of a jumble mess when you watch it all chronologically. So it does feel kind of rushed by the end of it. But overall, let me know what you guys think about Alien Covenant in the comment section down below. One more time, share your excitement for Alien Romulus as well. I am still very, very excited to go see this movie, especially since Alien Romulus is going to be more in the Aliens era. And Fede Alvarez has, you know, produced one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So I'm very, very excited for that movie still, even though there's been a couple of not so great movies within the franchise. But again, if you guys like Tom and Think movies, TV shows, video game related, or just anything nerdy, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.